So stop. Can you hit pause on the recording? Pause. Yeah.
And what, I don't remember what other vice chair.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to exec for month of October 2022. We're going to start off with our roll call vote for attendance. Go ahead, Kenya.
Paul Rangel?
Present. Can you use the mic? Can you use the mic and
Yes. Should have been on.
there you go.
Hello.
It is on.
What's that?
Make sure it's green right here.
It's green.
Hello,
Okay, go ahead.
hello.
What's that?
Paul Rangel, Eric Diaz,
Present.
Tariq Durrell,
Present.
Larissa Scheinberg,
Present.
Kenya Hernandez, present, Herman Hewitt, absent, Mei Lee,
Here.
Anisha Stephan,
Here.
Michelle Cooper Smith.
Michelle?
She's there.
She muted. She's muted.
My Zoom isn't working. She's present. We'll take
Trevor Holland
present.
and David Crane.
Present. That was fun. All right.
Okay, do we want to give the names of the other members that are here just to put in the minutes?
Absolutely. So joining us representing the nominating committee is Larry Fenn tonight. We also have vice chairs of their respective committees. We have Kay Webster here, Jake Gold as well.
You said
Kay Webster is the vice chair of Parks. And Jake Gold is the vice chair of the Land Use Committee. And for the record, I did invite Joshua Waterman, but his work schedule would not allow him to come out tonight. But he was invited as well. Those are the vice chairs of their respective committees. Josh Waterman is the vice chair of Transportation. Okay. All right, let's start. Any objections to the minutes from previous month? Hearing none, we'll deem the minutes from September approved. And I'll start with my report. So as you can tell, we're trying out a little bit of the hybrid variety tonight. And I think this is what's going to happen down the line, further down the line for maybe full board at some point. Certainly not for this month. Usually around this time is when we get an executive order extension. Guess what has not happened? An executive order extension. And guess what will happen on Tuesday? I will see everybody face to face at PS20. Unless something changes over the next couple of days, but I don't think it's going to happen.
So my understanding is that we are definitely having in person and that's it,
Yes.
regardless of whether there's an executive order.
Yes. At this point, if they had changed something a couple of days ago, I would have reconsidered. But at this point, we book these schools and places ahead of time and calling to cancel. It takes a lot. They have to book school safety. They have to do so many different things. They have to extend the hours. At this point, we were going to go with it anyway. So we will be face to face no matter what happens on Tuesday. Any questions about that? Yeah.
We don't need to plan tonight, but I suppose there's a chance that we won't have quorum, and how will we handle it? We've never actually, in my experience, had a full board meeting without quorum being present.
We can have the meeting.
In the last 18 years, since you and I have been on, I think it's happened once or twice.
Halloween or something, so we
I don't remember, but I would suggest that we vote on everything and then vote again the next month.
good suggestion. I kind of like that.
Yeah, I think that'll be the
Just
way to
ratify
go.
it a month later, and okay.
I think we'll be fine. I have a strong feeling we'll be fine for quorum anyway. I think we'll be fine, especially this month since we are voting on the finalization of the district needs and the budget priorities, which we'll get to much later tonight. So let's see, I think it'll be fine. It'll be good to see everybody again. It'd be my first one doing face-to-face, that for a full board outside of Zoom. It's been a year and I haven't done one face-to-face. We've done exact face-to-face, but not the full board. So be prepared and be prepared for your committee meetings to now go face-to-face at different sites So make sure you're looking at your agendas right now and know where you're going. All right.
There's
So,
nothing on the agendas.
right. I know it's a very light agenda for the month of November. So, but know where you're going. If there is something on, make sure you're there. It's not Zoom. All right. Speaking of full board, so we've had policy being on Zoom that our speaker forms get submitted online and we get them at about 2:00 the day of. Then Susan sends them to me and I have them ready. Now that we're back to face, we're used to having people sign up before the full board meeting. I'm going to ask the executive committee, is that something we should return to for this full board now that we're face to face? Do I take a combination of whoever signs up online and whoever signs up at the meeting right before 6:30? I'll take all kinds of opinions, yes or no.
6:30 is the cutoff time.
Be right before 6:30. I want those sheets in my hand right before 6:30.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, so if when you say sheets in your hand, someone can show, they don't have to submit it online by 6:30, they have to show up in person and everyone has to hand you the stuff by 6:30, right?
Because we start the meeting at 6:30,
Right,
so
yeah.
I want to have all those sheets in my hand by 6:30 so I can call on people.
Well, yeah, it was always like that
Yeah.
when it was in person, so.
It's been a while. I don't know, how many of you have actually been to an in-person full board? Maybe some of you have been to one, we have newer members here. Larry, right? You've never been to one, you've only seen Hollywood Squares. I think Tariq's only been to one, Kenyal's only been to one face-to-face, right? So Jake hasn't been to one, so go ahead, David.
Is it workable to just have the people who do the online version be the first 10 or 15 and then the next 16 plus are the ones that are in person, or is that what was just mentioned? A hybrid model.
Hybrid.
If it's workable, then nobody would be confused.
So this meeting is not going to be a
I understand.
full board, this full
No, I
board.
understand, but I'm talking about a hybrid sign up to speak.
Yep.
Is what I kind of.
So that
Go ahead, Susan.
wouldn't necessarily be, I mean, sometimes you might want someone to speak earlier. I would be thinking like maybe, an agency giving a presentation, but we could always have them sign up. The thing is, if you have hybrid, we need to change what's on the
Okay.
website to say you may sign up here or at the board by 6:30. And then it sounds like you want to give preference to the people that sign up early, the carrot being that they get to speak first. Is that it, David?
Not necessarily. I mean, well, yeah, that is the idea, but I'm not advocating for it. I was just thinking people might just automatically submit an email saying, I want to speak. And if they do that, but I don't see where it says online about signing up.
Yeah, they have.
Yes, it's
they
on
don't
the
submit
website.
emails.
It is
They have to,
something,
they have
yeah.
to like click a thing online. I fill out an online form that's on the website, it's the only way.
Do both, that's what they're talking.
To Paul's question, I'm okay with both options.
Yeah, I'm okay with both options, but if you somehow you find it easier to get them earlier and you want to offer the carrot, then you can do that. But if you don't care and just, then just, you don't offer the.
Okay,
I
so
mean, and then in the past, what did you do? It was hard to figure out what order the forms came in because, everyone just had this whole pile, they shuffled them and here you are, so do you just want to?
So
not-
what I do with the current forms, when the office sends it over to me, Susan scans everything over to me in order it was received, and I go through, not the order it was received, but all the public speaker forms, and I just call on the person. If the person doesn't answer, I call on them maybe once or twice, I'll go at the end, maybe one more time, and then I move on from there.
I
So
put
that's
them
what I'm
in
gonna do, set
categories
this. Right.
before I send them to Paul, and I do the same thing when people sign up at the meeting. Because if you have a lot of speakers, you say there's only 4 per side, so I put speaker SLA1, speaker SLA2,
Is it more efficient for you to do that early before the
Yeah.
meeting?
It absolutely is. So, what I can do, it sounds like what I'm hearing as an option is to leave the website the way it is and say you may add to it you may also sign up at the full board until 6:30. Speakers who sign up online will be called on first.
Because you want to encourage it earlier, because it's easier if we organize it earlier.
Does that sound like
I
an
think
option
that's,
you want to
I
do?
think that's absolutely fine considering on any potentially contested agenda items, we have 4 speakers per side. We get that all separated out way ahead of time. And if there's 3 for one side and then the 4th person happens to sign up at full board, we'll take that 4th person. So that it knocks it all out at the first shot.
Okay,
I like, that idea is fine. I think we'll go with it.
so Kenya, you got that language then?
All right, so because we have a lot of different kind of reports going on tonight, I'm gonna stop my report for tonight, and I'm gonna move to the second vice chair and their report. And for attendance for the month.
You said click this up.
It's on.
Yes, it's on, but just move it up so you could be unmuted.
Got it. So just giving, so from the attendance, last report, Alastair and Thomas Rosa were sent letters, and both have improved their attendance since then, which has been great. As I looked at this new report, we have about 5 individuals that are above the percentage for lack of attendance. So one being Eric, Jamie Felber, Shirley Fennessy, Kenyal, and then Herman Hewitt. So that process, though, this is all first time this happening. So we'll draft a letter to send to them, and they have 3 months to fix the attendance for them.
Could we have the percentages for the minutes?
So one thing that needs to get fixed and I just spoke to Paul about this earlier before the meeting, this document currently does not have correct formulas to populate.
It doesn't
that.
have any formulas.
Yeah, it's not, so it's very hard to put a percentage together on the document. So that's something that needs to get fixed for the next report.
So who's gonna fix it? The person, in the past, the only time we've had formulas is when the person to give me the attendance report to put formulas in.
So I'll talk with Paul and see who knows it and can figure it out.
Okay.
Thank you.
What?
Can we get the names again?
Yes,
The 5
absolutely,
names?
put all the names in.
I'll
Who
write it.
do we have the 5 names for the minutes already?
I'm gonna write it.
Okay,
But we can't send the letters out until we have the percentage.
yes.
So the last time I helped Eric, because, it's just a matter of knowing how to do it. But if anybody else knows how to do it, it's not very hard. But if you know, it doesn't take that long.
May I'll reach out to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't remember who did it last
Yeah,
time.
it
It
was
was
just-
me.
It was quite some time. Huh?
I'm sorry, I'm missing a name. I have Eric, Jamie, Herman, and Shirley. Who's the 5th person?
Kenya,
Oh, sorry.
I know.
Oops.
but she can never be absent again. She has to take minutes.
We should have a class on how to do this. It's not that hard. We should teach a class on how to do the formulas.
All right, thank you. All right, I know it's not numbered here, but we're now up to the district manager's report.
Oh, it's 3-3, actually 3, sorry about that. So the first thing I'm going to do is just pass around, these are, I just have a few copies because I figured people look at it and pass it on. That's our current state of the budget. I will say in the district needs, I'm asking that we put increase the community board budgets as number 1, and we're trying to get all 59 boards to do so. Because if we didn't have discretionary money from the council members, we'd not have any money. So that's that. Sorry, I have a long report And I'm gonna do some little things first. Just to give you an update, you know that Drew resigned. I feel like we're a parking lot for people who've interviewed with the city. What happened, and he actually was state too, he interviewed with the MTA in April, interviewed us 2 months later, accepted a job with us, and about 4 weeks ago, he got an interview with the MTA for substantially more money because we are not competitive with these other agencies, which is one of the biggest reasons I want an increase. So he took the job, of course. It's just a difficult situation. I have interviewed one person and I have another person I gave an informational interview that is also just applied again. So that should be at least 2 people going to the personnel committee. It doesn't look like I got other resumes that were just totally, nowhere near reasonable. But it looks like they'll have at least 2 people. And one of them is not, is still in graduate school. And I'm thinking it might be better, all the other things being equal, to hire someone that's not going to get hired away so easily.
Do you have 2 positions open?
Pardon?
Do you have 2 positions that open?
No, 2 people applying for 1 position.
For one position, what's the name of that position?
Assistant district manager.
Which, if they're still in graduate school,
One is,
will they
she's
have?
going at night.
Okay, so they would have time for a full-time job.
She's working full-time right now.
Okay.
Just some little things. I've noticed inconsistencies going from different committee meetings. Some meetings start right away. Some chairs wait for quorums. According to our bylaws, you don't need to or should be waiting for quorums. I know everybody waits, a little bit for people to come, but there's been times when we don't get quorums. So that's particularly another reason not to. Just want to draw to your attention, we have the primary and secondary committees right now, but we still have the personnel task force, which is not like either, and it's really not a task force because a task force is temporary. Personnel sometimes goes 2 years without meeting. So you might want to think just, it's not necessary to do anything right away, but you might want to think about how to handle that. It's kind of harder to have a chair because you have to know New York City kind of rules and regulations. And I know Don had passed a lot of stuff on to May. When he was there, it was actually, he used to go ask his personnel department things. So it's very convenient. But again, it's like New York City has its own very particular things. There was, I can deal with that later. This is just an issue that's come up. There's been a lot of complaints on the open streets. It's not about the open street, but it's on Avenue B, open street. There's a lot of amplified sound between, I think it's between 8th and 9th. That's because that's where the police put it, thinking that it was near the park. And the residents there are just totally freaking out. And I can understand having amplified sound there every Saturday, plus from the park, we've had a lot of unpermitted amplified concerts at 9 o'clock at night all week in the park, plus the weekend concerts, which are really loud. And their last amplified one was October 15th. So it's not an immediate issue, but DOT never conferred with the public at all about any of this. And some of the programming is done by FAB, some is done directly by DOT. So what I think we should do, and this is mostly for David, is put this on the agenda maybe in January, to have the residents come before the new programs are made up and before the decisions are made for next year, and have DOT come and at least listen to them. I can understand that feeling. After a while, it's like you just want some quiet. So I just wanted, so I'll put that on for maybe January. I've been working with the DA's office. We're gonna have a gun buyback December 3rd. Probably in the East Village. And we're still confirming the location. So I'll ask everybody for just help in getting the information out. December 3rd, but we don't have the location yet. We just had our second meeting today on the location. Planning fellow. So last year we had a planning fellow that worked with the land use committee and did the resiliency development checklist. And this year, none of the committees came up with anything. I had come up with updating our demographics. If you look at our website, from this 2020 census, we divided the board into sectors and did demographics for each sector because we're a really unique community board with very rich people living right next to very low income people. And it's really practical. I remember actually one resolution we did in parks when they wanted to put that parking lot from CB1 to CB3. Remember that, Trevor? And we took the information, we took all the environmental justice information from our demographics.
Yeah.
And we won, thank you. And we won. So, we have somebody assigned to us. She's really excited about doing it. We're going to get a work plan. I'll work with her on just getting the statistics updated and getting the change in statistics. However, if there is time for her to do any kind of analysis, I would probably want to ask her to have come to land use to talk about that. Or you could figure out what committee, but we'll see which committee, because it might inform other decisions like housing and that kind of thing. Been working with a group I've mentioned a long time ago, I think, in the East Village that are trying to get apartments for Ukrainian refugees. They're going to landlords and asking for them at 50% off, and then doing fundraising to cover the 50%. So they have a couple of apartments already. I contacted AFI to see if they had any available, and they just contacted me today. They do possibly have some not right in the East Village, more in the Two Bridges and Hester Street area. So we're looking to see what we can do on that. I'd like to talk with the chairs if we could, it's been hard, everyone's been really busy, but going forward, if we can make more of an early effort to work on agendas. I feel like there's a lot of potential for putting things on agenda, but they have to be done in advance. You know, we were used at, particularly during de Blasio, of so the agencies putting a lot of things on our agenda, so we didn't have to look for things. But that doesn't seem to be happening right now. But there are lots of opportunities, I think, for presentations on things concerning our board, or for committees to be doing investigation on things. In land use, this week we did zoning 101, which I hope was helpful. You know, we could do more things like that. And for December, May, we do have the mayor's plan on housing and homelessness. We do have that confirmed for December 1st. So it just sometimes takes over a month to get, because it's 3 agencies together. So the last thing I want to talk about, and it's difficult, this is all just very difficult. It's about SLA issues. So, you know, we've been like #1 in noise complaints for most of the time I think we've been here. And the office spends a tremendous amount of time trying to work with residents on it, trying to work with business owners, working with the police, working with the SLA. Ed probably spends 60 to 70% of his time processing SLA stuff. And when I was hired, one of my goals at that time, David's the only one left that remembers that time. One of my goals was the office and the board members and committees were totally disconnected. There was just nothing between them. And one of my goals was to connect and have everything working together, which I think has been generally pretty successful. I think that's now fallen apart with SLA stuff, particularly with the amount of time that we spend on complaints that don't seem to any longer in areas, not about specific things, be related to the committee vote. I don't think the committee is balanced to start with. I'm not sure that it represents the board. It certainly doesn't represent the community. The board voted on guidance, and a good number of representatives respect their guidance and ask about locations before, because they don't want to steer their client wrong. However, not all representatives do that, particularly one doesn't do it. This week, the committee voted to recommend an application in an area that was ignored the guidance. And the area is so saturated that I heard people testifying for the license. This is the first time I've ever heard this. They testified the block is already all bars and already loud. So therefore you should have another license, which gives nothing, no respect to people living there. You need a balance. You need businesses, you need bars, you need restaurants, and you need to have them spread out so they're not all in one area.
Susan, just, are you reading from your statement or?
That's me.
Okay.
This is me. I didn't want to forget stuff. You thought I was reading from someone else?
No, I just saw you reading it. I
I'm
wasn't
sorry.
sure if it was a letter.
No, it was me. I did this right beforehand. I just find it very difficult for me. And I'm going to say there was a change to the guidance. It's going to make the Upper Avenue A people who have been working for years to try and reclaim some of their area to have more diverse retail. And they've been very slowly successful because they now have a museum and a veterinary hospital that had been all bars, but now it's more diverse. So I think the community is going to be upset. I don't know what to do. I know Michelle and I had for months been talking about how we could make everything more streamlined, more fair and advanced for applicants, how to make it more efficient for the board. There were lots of things I think we wanted to do to improve in every way. And I feel like that's all down the drain now. So there's no connection between the complaints I'm getting, the work I'm doing, and how the committee is voting, which means probably how the board will vote. And I don't know, there's not much I can do about it, except that it's not productive for me to any longer be wasting my time on complaints when the board is enhancing the situation that's causing complaints. So that's kind of all I have to say about it. David, I know you voted against changing it, but there's nothing else I can really say about it, but I felt I had to say something. It's spent a lot of time in this. As a matter of fact, last Monday, right before the meeting, which started 6:30, from 5 to 6, I was at a meeting with residents in the bar next to them on Avenue C and their lawyer and the police, trying to help them resolve how they could work together. I spent an hour right before the meeting. It was very difficult, very stressful. And then I went to this meeting. I thought, why am I spending my time doing this? So that's all I have to say. Any questions on anything in the report?
If you could give me an update on these items, the city council grant, what are we supposed to do with those?
What are you supposed to do with what?
The city council grant.
Well, they're very general grants. They aren't for anything specific. We're using it right now particularly right now while we're missing an ADM to hire someone to come in the office. It's going to be, I'm going to figure it out 2 or 3 times a week. We can hire somebody, like I was just talking about dating the census. So last time I hired somebody to do that, and it's generally for that kind of thing. It's generally hiring someone to do some kind of work.
But it's at your discretion.
I always tell the board that whenever I spend it, I tell the exec.
No.
But the bylaws say if I spend more than 2,000, I should do that. But what I do is I tell you guys everything. And that's one of the reasons I pass this around every few months, is because I always let you know everything I'm doing.
On the Red Cross and Friends, we have it like sitting there. Do we have any project or anything that you would request that we could approve?
No, I think,
from the?
I really think we should keep that for a rainy day fund, particularly right now. 2 years ago, they tried to cut our budget after the beginning of the year. We're now going to be facing some rough times. I think it's really important to keep that rainy day fund. City operations budget, we have to spend by the end of the year. The Red Cross and Friends stuff, we carry over year after year. And so, it's good to know it's there.
Okay.
David?
Go ahead. So just to clarify on the issue of if there's no quorum at a committee meeting, I actually don't think our bylaws say anything about it, but it is true. We should meet even if we don't have quorum. We have a procedure for that, which is perfectly in keeping with, with the rules. Wait 5 minutes perhaps to see if you get quorum, but then start the meeting even without it. Just mark on the vote sheet, no quorum present. And then at the full board, I move that we adopt the motions where there were no, where there was no quorum present. They'll be on the vote sheet and all that. That's all.
Okay, when I was referring to the bylaws, what I meant is the bylaws say to take attendance at the beginning of the meeting, which is not the same thing as waiting for quorum.
Oh, that's interesting. That's true. Yeah, we should do that. But don't wait too long for quorum. Then it's a separate issue. If quorum never shows up, do not delay indefinitely and then tell people to just go home. You really must have a meeting, even if you're the only one there.
I was once at a meeting with one board member plus me.
Well, you can be the decider.
Yeah.
Tariq and then Kay. Tariq, Kay.
Just a question. I know you were talking about the gun buyback event and like outreaching that. I know, Paul, we talked about Instagram and getting that started. Is that something maybe we can do in the next month?
Sure.
I just, I think that will help with outreach, and getting some of these events and flyers. And I think also meetings. I think, but also on stories, I think there are polls you can do to poll the community for ideas and issues. So I think it can also help facilitate some reports from the community that we can also send over to from social media.
So the difficult thing was that I had volunteered to have the ADM do all of that. We're not going to have an ADM till, someone can do it temporarily, but we're not going to have an ADM now till probably the middle of December. Because I can't hire anyone till the board votes. The board's going to vote at the end of November, then they need to give at least 2 weeks notice.
So currently, we only have one active social account, the Twitter account. And the Facebook account, for some reason, it's gone.
Someone took it away.
No one really goes to it.
Yeah, even if no one goes to it, we still have one,
Yeah.
and it's gone. So whoever had the.
Politicians go to Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter is
We do have the Twitter account. I have access to it. It's on here, so we can post stuff and we can definitely talk about the Instagram stuff.
Changing, so.
Yeah, I would say in government, Twitter's Instagram.
Okay, so just, I know Kay had a question and I saw Trevor had his hand up. Trevor, is it related to?
Yes, so
Okay.
just for the gun buyback, I know they tried that in Brooklyn and there were a group of individuals who printed out guns and made fortunes.
Yeah, so that came up. I said, are people going to buy guns to make money, sell back and make money? And they said they're very careful about how much they give or what gifts they
I'm
give.
just saying,
No, it's
they
true.
didn't expect it.
Yeah, also I read an article that someone had printed 3D guns
Yeah, that's,
and brought
That's what
them
they
in.
That's what I said.
Oh, that's, okay, that's what you're referring to, use of bio, so, yeah, it was insane.
Kay, go ahead.
I can talk loud, but.
These microphones are not that great, so.
I just wanted to refer back, Susan, to what you were saying, because that seems like you're trying to tell the board something about the community vis-a-vis the SLA. And I just wondered if you had any ideas about how to solve this, or does anybody else? Because it seems rather important.
Well, I think I don't understand what's happening. So first of all, I want to understand what's happening. The other thing that's happening is, everyone always hates the SLA for giving out too much, the SLA for giving out too many. So we're now giving out more liberally than the SLA. I don't understand why. There's never been a discussion of this. Everything kind of just changed without a discussion. I don't understand that, we're supposed to be looking at public interest. I mean, the SLA, that's part of the SLA's law. If under certain conditions, you shouldn't give a license unless it's in the public interest. And these are the things you look at. The current state of noise, the current number and class of licenses there, traffic congestion. So why aren't we following that? And I don't know the answer.
Take a few more comments. Go ahead. I see Trevor. And then-
When you mention diversity in the SLA, diversity means a lot of different things, but it's difficult to get people on SLA. And I don't know how you improve that. I know you said that there were a lot of people who applied for SLA this year or wanted to be on SLA.
Did put 2 new members on the SLA that has to be on SLA at different rankings. I will speak to this from my perspective as chair. Is when I spoke to different committee chairs about who should go where and who might go where. When I did speak with Michelle, a lot of my thought process was she, as the committee chair, needed assistance in doing work on that committee in terms of like helping write resolutions and stuff like that and research and whatnot. I didn't really take into account the philosophies of those members of whether or not they're pro-business, pro-hospitality, or any of that stuff. I took into account who did I think would be able to do the work. That was my number 1 priority to help alleviate the load. And Susan alluded to it before, the efficiency. That there's one thing I've probably tried to beat over the head over and over again is efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. And that's what I was looking at when I assigned newer members to that committee and even to all committees and what their strengths would be.
And in terms of what you get in your office and what we see as committee members, you don't feel like we're seeing what you see.
We used to, up till, I'm gonna be honest, until we got recently new members. I didn't see, we always had like some business owners to balance it. It was always more of a balance. And we no longer have that balance, but there's also not been a discussion. What is the goal of that committee? It's like, I feel like we have people on now who are voting, but we don't know what's informing the voting. I don't know.
Their intention.
I don't know what's informing their voting, what their mission is, what their.
One more,
goal is.
we're asking about, okay, you get a sheet of paper that says that X bars, that's this complaints and all that.
Or certain areas.
Certain
So
areas.
they always ask if a bar is up for transfer or whatever, they always ask about that bar. But if the guidance that you voted on with the last few months, that talked about saturated areas.
Right.
Because most of the problems are not in bars. Most of the problems are, and that's why the SLA says you don't want, if you have 3 or more, the issue is should you have more? It's bringing more people to a saturated area. It's not saying that the bar owner is nice or not nice or good or bad. You shouldn't be voting on someone's personality. You should be voting on criteria that the board has.
Okay, so I know that this is a heavy topic. I get it. I understand things probably happened on Monday night at the SLA committee. I will look at the video myself to see also what happened there. But to something Susan just mentioned about goals of committees, I think that's something I want to hit on. I want to wait till next month to talk about that a little bit more. But that it's not just within the SLA, but every committee that we have, and my thought process of restructuring and everything of that sort is to see what are the committee goals. What is the goal of human services? What is the goal of land use? What is the goal? What are the goals, right? It's not just limited, it is across the board. So, and we have to figure that out. So that's what I want to comment on.
Which could also inform then if we start looking for presentations from
Right.
advocates or agencies, it should be things that inform those goals.
And it goes back to some of the emails I said about trainings and what trainings we needed. This is part of that. What are your goals and what kind of trainings do you need? You remembers Larry, Jake, and I know you're brand spanking new, right? Tariq and Young, you're newer by a year plus, right? This is a way we have to train newer members because you came in through the Zoom era, came in through the pandemic era, and you need to know what's happening. So this is not just, and for the more veteran members, everybody needs to see what the trainings are and go through them. The borough president's office at Borough Board this morning did say they would be offering more trainings. Now, they didn't say what times those trainings will be offered, but they said they will be offering more trainings. That's what they alluded to this morning. Yeah.
Are there SLA trainings that they provide?
There it is. They don't, we have done it in the past.
What a good idea.
So that's something we gotta work on. And
As
that's
I-
training,
yeah.
that's something we gotta put together. I guess.
As I also look at, I mean, I just looked at the SLA committee's attendance, and the attendance also is very shaky in that committee. There are like 2 or 3 sustained members that are always there, right? So that it looks like the work is happening with 3 members. And so that's something that might also add to what you're feeling, right? Of a disconnect in understanding, knowledge, communication, all of that. The other thing that I know agenda creation has been a thing since the summer. I mean, so what, do we have a plan to meet this issue with agenda creation?
Yes, and this is something we've done before, and things I think, if the office meets with the chairs in enough time, we can do that. I mean, generally, Trevor and I do this every month. That's this huge agenda. But his is kind of, it's not like, oh, what should I do? It's kind of, this is what we need to do. Simply meeting with the chairs and going over what's happening. Because, sometimes it, very much like this Avenue B situation. There's been a couple things actually that I've sent to David. There's a task force that, I don't know if you know about, I sent it to you, and I don't know if you read the email, and Josh. So there are a few things that have come up that I think my suggestion, we did this when Jim was here and we stopped when he left, is kind of a week before each committee meeting, is have a phone conversation, one, to make sure we have everything we need for the meeting, and at the same time, talk about the agenda for the next month. And I think that will do it. We just have to all be interested in, make a point of doing that. Because, it's easy, there's a lot going on. It's easy to have stuff get away from you.
So, and just to add on to some of that, you have veteran committee chairs, Trevor May, who have a very specific time frame that they work with the district manager, David as well, right? And there's some other committees that are in the period of transition. Michelle, I know, works with Susan all the time. So but that committee also went through a big overhaul at the beginning of last year. So it may still be feeling a little bit of those effects, right? So there's no excuses or anything like that. I understand this is how you feel right now, and I get it. I completely understand it. Some of these conversations are offline conversations. So that's.
And I was just Canal to put in the minutes about meeting with the office and chairs meeting a week before each committee to prep for the committee and plan for the next month's agenda. I think that's something we should focus on.
Paul, is just on that, is it something that, like first vice chair, second vice chair can, I know you assigned us kind of researching agenda items, but, I think when I think about the second vice chair really is here for attendance, right? That's literally in the job description. but is it something to add, to that role of like a check-in monthly with the committee chairs, right? To help generate as another reminder and what that schedule is to get it over to Susan in time,
No, they don't get it over to me. We do it together. So what I'm
Great.
thinking is that, to me, it sounds like another layer, to be honest.
That's,
as
but
a
this,
committee-
the process right now is not working well.
No, we're saying it's not working for some committees, and it has worked in the past, and we have a way to do it. It's, I think we should follow the models that do work, and it, like we said, it is working for some committees. And I said, when Jim was here, we had that weekly, that set up, it was set up in our calendars, that meeting a week before each committee.
Go ahead, David.
So we did a round of having it on agendas, or at least most committee agendas had an item about, I forget what the word was, just, discuss future agenda items. And at the time, I thought, that would be nice to have all the time. And of course, I've dropped it off my agenda. But I think that's something that committee chairs really should consider just doing. Just have it on as a placeholder every month. It gives a nice public opportunity for the members to go, I've been thinking about, and I don't know if there's a way, blah, blah, right there with the full committee. And so actually, I'm going to do that on my next meeting. I just don't remember the title.
You can add it on you have your agenda.
Yeah, I
with your
do.
initials on
Does
it.
someone remember the words that we used that were nice, that worked?
I have agenda press.
May already has it on.
Discuss future agenda.
But
Discuss future agenda items. I'm sticking it on.
yeah, just put it on your initial copy.
We had no ideas literally come up in my meeting, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have it every month.
I do believe the process works.
Yes.
But
Even when I was a committee chair, the process works. And I think what's happened over the past couple months is the perfect storm of events. And it's now getting us to right the ship. It took forever to get new board members on. We waited for the borough president's office to assign new members. We always asking, we're still short 2 members, but and we're still waiting for the 2 new appointees. So there's a perfect storm of events, and it's navigated.
It's also because Jim left. He was the one that was putting the scheduling down.
Right, so, and that's part of the perfect storm of events. We've had 2 assistant district managers since Jim Shelton was our ADM, and that's been about a year. So
He left, was it
May
June?
of 2021.
21?
Yeah.
Oh, and then we had, right. And then we had
Calvin.
a not very good one. And then we had Drew, who was very good, but it was only here a few months.
It says the perfect storm of events. Is there any other questions? I don't want to drag this anymore. Susan, is there anything else for you to report?
No, I don't. I would just like, if we have a big problem and I say I'm not going to be able to work on complaints because of the situation, the board needs to have something that the board needs to say, okay, we're not going to work on SLA complaints anymore, or do something. I mean, something needs to be done. We can't just say, you're going to feel terrible and all the work you've done up till now is it's sort of like Roe versus Wade, and we're not serving the community. I mean, what are you going to do about it? I'm not expecting an answer right now, but the board needs to do something.
There are more conversations that need to be had. It's not just today. This is something.
Okay.
But I understand. All right. Thank you. Larry Flynn, spotlight is on you. I know the chair of the nominating committee, Alicia, sends out an email about a week ago, I guess, asking for nominations. Alicia could not join us tonight physically. Larry has come in her stead. Larry, it's all yours.
Hello? Okay, so we have received 5 nominations so far. I'll just go through them quickly. Paul for chair, Kathleen Webster, first vice chair, Sarah Bachu, second vice chair, Kenyelle Hernandez, secretary, and Amanda Liu for treasurer. Of those, we've already sent out emails basically asking if those individuals accept their nomination. We've received confirmation back from Paul and Amanda. We're waiting for the others. And other than that, we will also at full board ask for any nominations from the floor then for nomination to the executive committee. And afterwards, the plan is to request responses from the individuals about why they chose the position, et cetera. And we have a meeting to do between ourselves just to go over the various election procedures. And that's it.
All right.
So,
Mhm.
sorry, could you read that list again? Sorry.
Of the individuals who can nominate? Yeah. Paul, Kathleen Webster, Sarah Bachu, Kenya Hernandez, and Amanda Liu, LIU.
Has Kate Webster accepted her nomination?
I haven't seen the email back. So
Just checking.
we're waiting.
She's also right here.
Yeah, there's two people here that we can confirm.
Are those offices empty? I mean, are the people who've been in them returning?
These are the only nominations, from what I understand.
I can only say, yeah, we've only received nominations from those individuals.
Do people know they can nominate
Express
themselves?
of interest, it's not nomination, express of interest.
Yeah.
You can nominate yourself, right?
I
Go ahead.
believe so. That was in the.
No, you're not allowed, it's a state chair.
I don't want to nominate myself. Did you say that Kenya for secretary and Amanda Lewis for
Treasurer, yes.
Okay.
So the
But
The current
the
members-
point is I volunteered 3 times for that treasurer position, so I can tell you right now, I won't
Self-nominate? That's another question.
nominate myself or continue.
I can't hear you now.
No, I said I volunteered 3 times because nobody wanted to run for those positions.
Oh, yes.
So there was somebody now that is willing
3 times,
to.
the 4th is the charm.
No.
You get paid after the 4th one.
He gumbles.
All right, is
In
there
appreciation.
any other questions for Larry? So members can nominate themselves all the way up, I guess, until Tuesday night at full board. That's it for now. Larry, thanks for coming. You're more than welcome to stay, but if you're trying to go home and watch the Yankee game like I would be, feel free to do so. Thank you for.
Oh, I have a lot of questions after this.
Thanks, Larry. All right. You're gonna flip 5 and 6. We'll get to the budget priorities and at number 6, but we're gonna talk about vice chair. So I want to thank the vice chairs who came to exec tonight. Sorry. I want to thank Jake, I want to thank Kay for coming. I didn't want to write up a specific document for today because I wanted to hear from all of you and from the chairs about what should be the role of the vice chair at the committee level. I don't think we have anything formally in place, but there's a lot of people doing different things. And I know in certain cases, it may be grooming that person to maybe eventually learn more and maybe potentially want to become a chair of a committee or do something like that. But I'm gonna ask Trevor and Kay first because she's been your vice chair for quite some time. What is your role on the committee right now and how do we incorporate it to make it more uniform for all vice chairs?
Well, I'll start off. It was never defined by me. I know when I forget who was chair. I think it was,
Jamie.
I was gonna say Carlina's husband, but.
Better known it.
Who said that we had to have a vice chair, and we've been like that since. I mean, I know in the absence of the chair, which I may actually be absent next month, the vice chair takes over. I've tried to rotate the position of secretary to different people. Everyone hates that. Luckily, we have Ryan, who does an excellent job. Too many notes, but it helps with ESCR.
Yeah.
The Zoom facilitator obviously has been problematic, not problematic, because we had,
Yeah.
the person who now controls the Facebook account was doing Zoom, and he was very good at doing Zoom. But it was very good at doing Zoom. So when he left, there was a void. So we couldn't get the secretary obviously to do the same thing. And Kay has the skills, but she says that she doesn't have the skills to do Zoom, but I think she did. So that's my position on the vice chair, because it was never defined by me.
So should we put definitions in place for the vice chair's role in a Zoom meeting as opposed to a face-to-face?
Are we ending Zoom for good?
Who knows?
No, we need to have that option
Yeah, no, I know.
in case we go back to all getting sick again. So, and they decide to put an executive order together, we need to have something in place. So what does the vice chair do at the Zoom meetings if it's on Zoom versus when it's a face-to-face as opposed to just, I'm gonna fill in for you in case you're out?
I think in face-to-face meetings, it's a little easy, there's a little more stuff to do because you have to run a meeting and flyers and people, but on Zoom, it's not as defined because, I'm just sitting there Hollywood Square, so there's not really a lot to do other than the Zoom facilitator. But in person, there's a lot more to do. But I'd like to hear what other vice chairs and committees, and I know we had this discussion a few years ago about what other vice chairs do. Because there was a discussion about whether they should be taking notes and be the secretary also, or we never had Zoom facilitators before. I'd like to hear what other vice chairs do.
No, that's why everyone's here. So Jake, Kay, you're the vice chairs who are here. Jake, I know you're very new, so very new. But we're gonna ask you what you feel is your role as vice chair and.
Well, we should ask Kay too.
And Kay.
I'm getting through it. It's getting there. It's getting there.
And what you feel is your responsibilities and how I can put this into a document that we maybe approve next month. So whoever wants to lead off.
I would say, do you want me to?
Yeah, sure.
I think it really does vary depending on the chair. And I think Trevor is a really incredibly competent chair. And, note-taking would certainly be fine, I think, for the vice chair to have that as our job. And the Zoom thing, I don't actually have that skill. I have a Zoom account, but I actually don't do that other stuff. And I'm not going to learn. I really felt in this last period of time that my job was mostly kind of junkyard dog because of how shitty things got in those meetings. And I think that if you're the vice chair, your job is to do whatever the chair asks you to do. Trevor is an island unto himself. No, he's just very good at what he does. So I think it would mean the chair would want to lay out what they actually need and could do, and then depending on the skill set. And I don't feel covetous of my role and would happily pass it on if it made sense for somebody else to do it, honestly. So.
And we've talked about that. It's just that I have a very unique committee.
Do you want to put that on the record?
No, it's very unique. That's a compliment.
Okay.
We're not on camera.
We are.
No.
You can offer whatever you want to offer right now and what you feel your role is as vice chair and how we should execute it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think what Kay said about every committee being unique rings pretty true to land use too. I'm not sure there's a huge role for the vice chair currently. I mean, Anisha is remarkably capable and I just do what she asks. And obviously what the chair needs varies greatly by committee and by both chair and by the responsibilities. So I mean, I don't know anything about, no, she's not.
No, that's.
I think that's Michelle. Yeah.
These are my reading glasses.
He's talking.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's just, I don't know much about the organizational philosophy of CB3, but it seems to me kind of hard to generalize vice chair's role overall. Currently, I mean, I don't know, I do some stuff, not all that much stuff. And I gather that I'm more in the grooming category than in actually doing things.
Wait a minute, you do what your chair asks? That's so interesting.
Like half of the time.
Oh, let me add one more thing, and this was more before the pandemic, and I wasn't speaking with a microphone before, but there was often ribbon cuttings or events or meetings that the vice chair, depending on people's hours, would go to. So that's an additional thing that was.
Yeah.
And budget priorities.
In budget priorities. So, you know, a lot of them are during the day too. So whoever can make it.
I think that's a big part of it.
Spare tire, I think is the role.
Well, full size spare tire. For those who drive.
Why don't we pass this one down where people are speaking down there?
So I do think we do have to put something concrete together. So that way there is no ambiguity as to who does what. May, you don't have a vice chair, correct? You used to have one, but not anymore, right? So anybody else, SLA does not have a vice chair, right? Who else doesn't have landmarks? No, that's secondary. Transportation now has one, but you won. So I do want to take all the information from tonight and put a document together for next month. But go ahead, Michelle. Go ahead.
But I would suggest the perfect place to put it is the committee chair's responsibility handbook.
Yeah.
Which we can vote on. It's just every chair when they take the responsibility, but I'm just saying it from my perspective, it's like, I don't always know what's happening. Like, for instance, some vice chairs will take care of Zoom. And then because I expect that, then there's another committee, I'll say, oh my God, I'm the only one worried about this committee now. They don't have anyone to do Zoom. So what I would ask, and I would not expect that everyone's going to behave the same in every committee. What I would ask is that the chair let me know, and this may go away next month, but for something like Zoom, let me know ahead of time. If you're missing someone and you need help or you need me to fill in, which I've done, don't wait for me to say, hey, do you need anything? Because some chairs do it all on their own. And so it's not a consistent thing I do with every committee. So just please let me know, because I understand the committees are very different. And some of you are going to do different things. And, some committees, I think Landmarks doesn't have a secretary or a vice chair, and they don't need it. They've always had one person do everything. So, I do expect that. It's just that because of the inconsistency, I don't always know what you need.
Yeah, I think that's what we're trying to address as well, because there's meetings that need to happen, there's conversations, there's responses to different potential agenda items, and one person may not be speaking to another person. And we want to make sure they're all on the same page, because ultimately the chair of the committee makes the decision as to what's going to go on the agenda, not the vice chair, right? But somebody needs to relay that information. So if a chair, let's say Trevor can't make it to a call, but Kay is able to, it would be great that she's able to relay that info to Trevor. And because they've worked worked together for so long, she'll have a good idea of what he would probably say anyway, right? So that would help. So I can put this part of the committee chairs handbook, everything like that, and put it under the vice chair category, and then we'll go from there. I will put something together and have everyone look over it for what's next month, November. Is that all right? Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. And I will send an email out asking for recommendations of anything that you may want me to put in. Communication is really just the most important thing. I think that's kind of what it comes down to, is that, and this goes back to the perfect storm argument, this is part of it, right? This is just getting the right amount of communication going everywhere, so that way we know what's going on.
I just want to add that, I don't know, is this now?
Agreed.
I wasn't on.
Yeah.
That I know it may not seem like a defined role, but Kay has been extremely helpful over the past couple of years, well, forever. I wouldn't call her a junkyard dog, but we've had a lot of meetings where we don't have a sergeant at arms, and she's essentially become a person. So I think it's the larger committees with more complex topics really need a vice chair.
Yeah.
And the Zoom thing sort of made things a little more difficult because now you have 4 people, secretary, Zoom facilitator, vice chair, and the chair at a meeting doing all different responsibilities. And if you lose one, like we lost our Zoom facilitator, who was excellent at doing that,
Yeah.
it was a bit of a challenge to find somebody to do that.
I do think that's a whole separate animal in terms of Zoom facilitation.
No, just
I'm in agreement with you because that's part of it. Maybe part of the rules for the vice chair, and okay, don't jump me just yet.
Oh, yeah.
Could be, you're the Zoom facilitator, right? The vice chair is the Zoom facilitator. I don't, she's
We
gonna
get
throw
so much
something at me, let's not do that, all right? But I'm just saying that could be a potential idea, but there's gonna be a need. Eventually, we'll go back to some kind of executive order or something like that, and we'll need to be ready for it, right? And we need to have a Zoom facilitator for every committee. And if we need to do a training with those Zoom facilitators, we will do that. This is what you do. You open up the meeting 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes ahead of time. You are ready. If there's any kind of quirks or system issues, you're ready and you're able to relay that to us. As Susan has said, she will step in if anybody asks me, I step in as well. Right, I'll open up a Zoom room, I'll open up anything. If you need me to facilitate with you, I will do that. I've done that in the past as well. So it's something we need to think about as well going forward. We've been on Zoom for 2 years and we haven't had that locked in. I'll take any other questions on the matter. But I will have something written up for November's meeting.
I just think Zoom tech person is different from the role of vice chair, which is,
That's right.
I mean, vice chair, I think, can do notes. I think that's somehow in keeping because you're trying to track the meeting. But Zoom is, to me, anyway, a different skill set. But I don't care.
Right. All right, so I will put something together so we could put into the chairperson's handbook for next month. Okay.
Hit that.
So do we want to wait to do all the budget priorities after committee chair reports? Do we want to do committee chair reports right now and then go back to it, or should we? I'll take any.
He wants to watch something.
No.
Why don't we do the committee reports first, because you have Michelle and I don't know about Anisha.
Well, Nisha's gone, Michelle's on the phone, and we're gonna need this computer in a second. So we're not gonna be able to see Michelle on the Zoom, or, well, she's on the phone anyway, but we're gonna project the budget priorities onto that screen. So, you're gonna have to come.
Before you go to the next thing, can I one thing I forgot that I want to
Sure.
ask the chairs for help on. I have, particularly because I don't have an ADM right now, but always, when you're looking at the agendas at the exec, I've screwed up a couple times in the last couple of months and nobody's caught it. So I want to tell you the kinds of things that I've messed up on. So please look at your agendas carefully. One is location. Whenever we're dealing with a place, you have to have the address. I've left an address off. We always have to say who's presenting the agenda items before we start with DOT or this group or this something. So those are two things that I've messed up on. But just in general, please don't assume that it's perfect. Please look at it. That's it.
That being said, does landmarks have a location yet?
Isn't it on there?
No. It's just online.
Oh, you mean a location of where they're meeting? I was waiting, none of those, so no one has a location yet because tomorrow, the executive order has to be actually signed by Saturday. So by the time this is posted Wednesday morning. However, landmarks is going to be the only easy one because Sandra said she'll do it in her community room.
Okay. Yeah, that's the only one that doesn't have a location, but yeah.
But when I say location, what I mean is for the agenda item.
Oh.
Like the shelter on Third Street, I never put what the address was, and I thought it was the men's shelter, and they were presenting on the women's shelter.
That's it. All right. But yeah, even stuff like that. just
Yeah,
look-
the location for the, but yes, you're right, they should also make sure that I have rescheduled someplace.
Location.
That I generally discuss with the committee chairs.
Okay, so let's move to budget priorities and,
Want to do that?
yeah.
Okay, so, do you have the computer, Paul?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm gonna take a seat closer. So what we do, Paul's getting them up, I'll tell you what you're gonna look at. Each committee voted on their priorities and they ranked them in a very specific order. So I kept them in that order because the one thing we never do is change the order the committees put them on, but we collate them. And what I do every year is I do a draft collation based on the previous year. So what I do, and this is very imperfect, but it gives you something. First 9 human services last year. So I made the first 9 human services items this year. And I do that throughout. I actually have suggestions on changes, but what you're looking at now reflects the order from last year. The one other thing I don't want to forget is every year, the community board has to say there's 3 most pressing needs. This is kind of a new thing with the last administration. And we have always had affordable housing, seniors, and homelessness. And the exec has kind of, reviewed, said yes, we should continue that. So I wanted, to get that from the exec again.
Where do you want me to start, capital or expense?
That's fine, whatever you prefer.
Okay, we'll go with capital, that's what I have up.
And the initials you'll see where it says before the funding, that's to let us know, just to keep track of what committee they came from. So P is parks, L is land use.
Just give me a second so I can. Everyone see that? Is that good?
Mhm.
Bigger is always better, but that's okay.
You want more? Or do you need it?
Just like the Yankees, go big or go home.
All appealing to the right person.
I'm just sitting too far away, but. Okay, that's good.
Okay. All right. So what do we have, how many? We have 27.
Susan, could you also preface this by saying that most of these are going to be parks?
Most of these are always parks,
I'm just,
because that's what we have for capital priorities. We actually have, usually we have libraries in there. There weren't any capital for library this year. But we have some other new ones actually. And we didn't get any schools from the CEC this year.
So how do you want to look at this? You want to look at it from the top down, bottom up? It's 40 for this one,
You're allowed to have 40.
We have
So we're not
27.
adding any new ones, but we don't have to drop any.
Right. So
So I have, just go take a look through them all. Or you're going a little too fast.
I'm going to scroll down all the way to 27. So the last thing there is a new elevator.
So if I could just get that in context, since Anisha's not here. We asked at the NYCHA Budget Council, we asked NYCHA if they actually even bothered looking at ours, at our list, and they said, yes, we look at them. They do want to know what we think is important, but they have their own. They are really going by this technical, for instance, roofs first before they do anything under inside. So I think one of the reasons that the NYCHA ones were below some of the others is because we want them on there, but they're not really going to make a difference in the funding. These are all things that are on the list already to be funded by NYCHA. These came from the NYCHA list last year.
Okay, so let's now look 26, 25, 24, 23, and 22 are all parks.
25, can I real quick, 25 sewer park renovate playground. If it's already been funded, and it has, should we?
No, it's not funded. We've gone,
It is.
Trevor and I went through each one of these with parks, like a few weeks
Well,
ago.
that's fun. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not a night shift, that's the sewer, I apologize.
No, that's the park.
That's the park.
Yeah, so I should tell you,
Apologies.
we said, these all came from.
No, he thought it was.
I got it, but
Yeah.
just in general, since you brought it up, it's a good point.
Yeah.
To let everyone know, that is what the research is about, what has been funded, what is city funding, because we don't influence federal funding, that kind of thing. So these have all been researched, and need funding.
A concrete bathroom.
So I'm working up 23, 22, and 21, also all parks.
And we also don't change the order
Right.
of committees ranking.
Right.
So those are all parks rankings right there.
Is 19 still the same?
Yes, we've just asked for an extension. It wasn't ranked high because it's certainly not going to get funded next year, but we just asked for an extension of the space. You voted on it last month.
That resolution was last month, right?
Yeah, you voted on it. So 17 is one that I would recommend be moved up higher. It is kind of where it is because it's new, it's never been on before. One of the issues we've been talking about a lot in human services is that we have community facilities in NYCHA, and NYCHA does not take care of them. So we found out, I never knew this before, we found out in the consultation this year that DFTA, unlike other agencies, actually will give money, capital money for these centers. Melissa, this is run by University Settlement. Melissa said that she has been complaining. It's in terrible condition. And she has been complaining. And I said, but it's not even on the list. It's not even on. And, I think this will influence like even elected officials and other people seeing this on the list and use it for advocacy. So
Is there another housing before that though?
I think that was one of, it's a human services, it's not housing. It's human services. So I don't know, we'd have to look. I think not. I think we decided May, didn't you decide to make it number one for your committee?
Oh, for the capital? Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that's number one for human services. So you would not be putting anything out of order.
So that doesn't have much to do with the major construction that we're doing right now?
It's no funding whatsoever for the senior center. It's not even
Just
on
the
that.
senior center itself?
This is only for the senior center.
Alicia,
And that's why we're asking
they got money
different.
to do other things.
So Susan recommended that 17 move up. You said top 5, correct?
Yeah,
So I'll look at top 5 right now.
and the reason I say top 5 is because that makes an impact on the people looking at it.
So we have new elevator for Baruch addition, new elevator for LaGuardia addition, increased city investment in development of affordable housing is 3, 2 is funding to construct remaining walls of Allen Pike Street walls, funding to continue constructing a park at Pier 42. So if this is something, well, let me ask, is this something we want in the top 5, number 17, moving up into the top 5?
I don't see any reason why.
And you know, housing, fine, we already need a lot of affordable housing, but we also have to spend a lot of time to find out where we're gonna develop that housing in the neighborhood. I mean, we are, you know, land is not very specific. I don't think that would be funded anytime within a short time. We probably could put it at 3 and just move it down.
I think the city investment in housing, you know, that big project they're doing, what is it in Brooklyn, that's been controversial?
Yeah.
The city just increased the investment to make it from 25 to 40% affordable. So I think that's a big deal. We actually spoke to the commissioner about that.
We actually should not move 3 below 4, for instance, because of the ordering there.
No, not below 4, but
Well, I don't think we can move 3 relative to 4, period.
I'd be willing to move 17 to now 4.
Could we put it at 4?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good.
Any disagree?
What's 17?
you could make it 4, move everything down.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's, I mean, we're trying to.
Scroll down to 17, reconstruction.
So just, copy and just cut that.
I'm not familiar, but I assume that.
Does Tompkins Square Pool?
Yeah, I think we should do it.
You can't move.
You want to ask that question?
Does Tompkins Square Pool need to be on the list at all?
Yes, I mean, it needs funding.
That pool needs to just be cut.
That's right.
It just needs to be cut. It's so tiny, it's like a COVID.
Put it in our backyard.
They can just walk to dry dock.
Well, so you should go to the Parks Committee and I mean, the Parks Committee voted that, you know, to do that. So.
You never,
I
I've
think
never
we
been
should-
there. I lived there. It's not.
You live in the COVID pool?
It's a shipping container that's filled with water. I mean, it's,
So they want to
Unappealing.
totally renovate that to an in-ground pool.
could be bad.
Don't worry, Parks will not.
Don't worry. It's
Besides that, you have room for 40, why take anything off?
If
That's right.
we're funding shift fountain, I think we can fund it.
Well, that's never.
No. I mean, that's,
So wish list.
Ah,
it really is just politics of the same.
Am I good now?
yeah.
Why don't you make it a turtle time? We have a turtle time. We have a turtle. You should come with the kids.
I bet you it's crowded.
As the architect, where you are?
No, there's a turtle pond. There's a real turtle pond.
That's the park?
Yeah.
has
There's
it
a
all.
little garden and a chicken. Wait a minute.
All right, let's say on the chair drive.
Ready to slide it?
I think I just did say,
Yeah.
it should be good now. You'll have it in your share drive.
It's number 4?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Between Rivington and Delaney.
It should all be renumbered, it should all.
Yeah, everything should.
Never mind.
Super.
I go to-
You haven't been in it?
Yes, that's perfect, it makes it so much easier to do this right now.
Roosevelt.
Transportation.
Yeah.
All right, Dave's got a question.
Methodical.
Well, go down to the transportation.
Rivington,
I
yeah,
mean,
in the,
it's down around 14, 13.
they're externals.
So that one there.
Right there.
Reconstruction.
I mean, you know, I don't know why they don't fix it when they level the street. They just haven't dealt with that. It's terrible. You know, I don't know how. You know, I think playgrounds are actually critical, whereas I don't know what to say here, other than it is unsafe when there is a lot of rain. It is very unsafe. And if you tried to go through it, well, you're in trouble.
Where is this ranked at transportation? Is this number one on
This is number one, it's the only one.
That actually goes hand in hand with the Allen Street Malls.
Kind of does, yeah, it's right adjacent to it.
DOT. It's just, they did do repaving, except a lot of it is settled already.
No,
It's not-
did they?
Yeah, they repaved the entire.
In the recent few months, maybe?
Mhm.
Oh, it may, so I haven't been there.
Yeah, they repaved it. Susan can tell you, the city had money to repave streets and they need to do it, so that was.
Would you say if they've improved it, then I'll drop the idea. Maybe.
I would leave it there if they improved it.
They did.
It's-
I can speak, this is on my commute.
Okay.
I bike to work here and nearly get killed at least once a week. It should be higher.
Yeah, I would say like 5 or 6.
All right, how high should it go?
The problem I've had is that there's a strong biking community and they've never talked about Allen Street,
Yeah.
ever.
Well, because most of Allen Street is much better. I don't want to complain unless it gets worse, you know.
I've
I
seen,
don't like to-
I've seen the lobby complain that there were 2 pebbles in the bike lane. Allen Street is horrible for bikers, and I haven't seen a large campaign.
Okay, but
Okay, so we need to figure out.
they come out when there's a proposal
Yeah.
to strongly promote it or not, but this has actually just never been on an agenda, but I mean, whatever, I'm not one of those cyclists, but I do cycle here often enough, and I can tell you, it is bad.
Yeah, no,
It certainly was before the construction.
I just
I would
avoid
say-
Allen Street altogether, that's why I don't complain about it.
So I think this is the kind of thing that does make an influence. DOT will look at this. DOT actually suggested last year that if we wanted to get it done, we put it on this list.
Okay.
So I think if you make it like number 5 and say it's in our top 5.
The problem seems to be that there used to be buildings there and basements, and it's just not a well-constructed
Yeah.
road, period. And then this is sort of on what would have been the shoulder of the road, and now it's sunk about a foot. And it's actually not.
So where do you
great
want
to
to
go
put it?
through.
I
would say- I would say-
do not want to see this before Sarah Roosevelt, because we have actual murders and knifings and gunfire.
Okay, where's that?
Can we put it in the top 10? I mean, I don't know where.
Yeah, I can go in the top 10.
Where's the Roosevelt there?
It's 9.
Can we stick it at 10 then?
What's 10?
Okay,
Yeah,
Yes,
because that's going to get done, right?
sounds
So maybe number
good.
10.
I'd be happy with that as well.
That's fine.
Move
I've been
15
pushing for that for years. And
Yeah, that's what I recommend. Everybody
I've
against that?
never,
So we could say it's in our top 10. Maybe
I know what to
top
do. I'll tell people it's about to close. There will come transportation in a minute. So I thought they were going to improve it when they did ESCR and then changed the route.
Right.
So they did.
Didn't number correct. Oh, no. Okay.
You're doing very well, Paul.
Thank you. Careful,
I think we
because
should
it's-
encourage our chair.
This computer
Yeah.
freaks out.
I think, yeah.
Oh.
Everything else was parked. Is there any other committee that we would consider moving?
Is there anything else that we need to?
Wait, go back. Okay, under 20. No one else is, can you delete where it says no info on this? Thank you.
All right, anything else before we go to the main event?
But just, let's scroll back up, make sure it's all park, and see if there's anything else we might be consider moving. School's the right place.
About food.
Yeah. Shoot.
That's my fault. Looks good. Looks fine to me. Everybody's all right with it? All right.
Safe.
All right, so now we go to.
Okay, so the first one, EC, is Executive Committee. So this I mentioned earlier, we're trying to get all boards to increase baseline funding as number 1. And one of the reasons is even when we get all this discretionary funds, we're not allowed to use that for salaries. So we're particularly, one of the biggest issues is being able to retain staff, particularly now, because we're very not competitive with the city and state agencies. And also we're spending more money on technology.
What was two again, I'm sorry?
Outreach consortium, members outreach workers.
This is number one for you, May, right?
Yeah.
Human Services.
Right. Yes, now.
Okay, so the thing is, for here, we have to have 25.
Yeah, so anything after 25 is gonna drop off.
And we have.
We should not lose parks enforcement.
Take up.
Those parks things at the end are important. They're just put there because, because parks have so many, but they're really important.
I would put forestry with those all going.
So that would mean that 5 would need to be effectively cut to make room for those 5. So
Yeah,
And this is the order, so let's say,
that's why.
oh, we would say, let's say you wanted to take out 29, well, you can't because it's at 30. So you
No,
gotta flip it, but you
but
gotta
we
get,
can
we
go
can
like
move around.
Or the land use, I think the last one under land use we'll get rid of.
Oh, yeah, please.
We'll drop them to the bottom for now.
That one right there, number 25. You know, they're not doing that. I mean, they said in their report that it's not gonna happen.
So this would be the first one cut.
Waste management. It's not.
If
It
it's
is.
not
No,
gonna happen.
Number 25.
Yeah,
Oh,
baseline stabilizing NYC program HPD under land use. There's the explanation. And if it's not gonna, you said it's not gonna happen. I don't,
It's not gonna happen.
go ahead. Dave.
I was gonna say, you don't want to drop them. By the way, if you select from there to there and then cut, can you paste in one move? I see you do this up and down thing.
I think the civilians,
Usually that will work in most programs. Now, this is Microsoft.
you can just cut and paste.
You can cut and paste.
Just cut and paste.
Control exit. To
Or
see
you
what I
can
did.
just click on cut.
I understand the whole thing, Control X, and then I go down, and it should even renumber it if it is a program
Yes.
worth it,
It should do all
worth
that.
anything.
All yours.
So that's
My favorite, but congratulations. Redo and undo.
Well, I just like Microsoft, so. I'm sorry, we were looking for.
we were just gonna get rid of it, right?
Yeah, it was coming off.
Just cut it. And I'm gonna suggest also, even though it was my suggestion, the civilian staff or police is probably not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So even though that was my suggestion, I would get rid of that one.
I would agree.
What, civilian staff?
Civilian staff of the NYPD.
That's something that
Drop it
allows
towards the bottom.
police to be more present.
Just get rid of it.
I would keep.
Yeah, well, for now, there are other ones I like to.
I hear a couple of things. Why would you keep it?
Because it allows more police officers to be on the street.
Because
That's why-
whether they say yes or
That's
no,
why it's
I
in.
think that we should have it at 25 if it's possible.
Yeah.
So who wants to keep it in? As
So can I
opposed to-
just explain
Go ahead.
to Eric, the thing is, it's not gonna happen. We want to do it,
Why?
but the police haven't put this in their budget. So,
Oh, they're not even advocating for this? The police are not even asking for this?
no, I asked at the consultation, what about doing this?
Uh-huh.
No, they weren't asking for it. They think it's a
So
great
only-
idea.
only-
They think it's a great idea, but it's not in their budget,
We're asking
so.
for something they're not even asking for. All right, then
Yeah.
get it.
So the reason to get it is not because it's not a good idea, but because
We should ask them.
politically, it's just not
We should
gonna
ask them what.
happen.
Anyway, okay, so let's just move things down if we feel that they could be lost without causing grief. This one? Probably not. From the looks of it, I think that was necessary. I mean, tell me when someone sees one they would recommend putting at the bottom.
Is 23, is that gonna be handled by the new garbage rules? It's like 5. I'm
We've
just-
done 2, we would need to get 3 more. We can't, unless we move this, we can't move any other transportation one down.
Well, maybe you wanna take that.
Well,
off
let's
then.
go, we're only at number 21, so let's just go up and we'll start over after. Homeless services, any of these? Are there other H's below?
Oh, got me wanting to put on some.
Are any of these H's?
At the DYCD consultations, did they say anything about Cornerstone, about how that's gonna play out in terms of their funding? Because I know DYCD got
Got what?
they were chopped around a little bit, so is that something we need to?
Well,
Were they?
you know, it's funded, they need more funding.
Right,
You know, we're not gonna lose the program.
right. But always is more.
So that's true, I'd say, with almost all the DYCD, you know, the programs are gonna continue. But, you know, they don't serve everybody that needs to be served.
Here's a land use here, so if that land use stayed, you can't move that land use. Those are parks, transportation, that was eligible to be moved down.
What's the park sign?
There's a bunch of parks, things. We're trying to move other parks things up, we cannot get rid of that.
Yeah, you have to
No,
go to
the
the
steps.
last one.
Maintenance, but.
I
So
would take the school pickup off.
school pickup was a little further
This is the
down.
last one, I think.
It was a Disney thing, it was
So
the sanitation
These are on
department
now.
thing, right?
Down.
Yeah.
Cornerstone, the basket service.
Oh, is
and
it
sanitation
Number
for-
23.
Schools. Okay, schools, any sanitation? Oh.
Drop that, I wouldn't mind
We should
doing that,
move it down
although
to.
it kind of does break my heart.
Just put it there.
Well, because I have to put it about the transportation. There was another transportation there, but let's go look for other candidates. This North DIFTA, that came out of Human Services.
Yeah.
Were there others below?
Yeah, there are many below.
There were not any?
There are,
There
there are
are.
many below.
It seems pretty important.
Got you. What are they?
SGT.
What did you know about, sorry, the rat medication zone?
They continue, they're bringing back the program right now.
Oh,
They're
okay.
continuing it now. It was stopped for 2 years.
All right, so
Is it here?
there's an H or two, there's T's, and there's more H's down here.
So what's 23? Go to
What
25.
does the city actually do with rat mitigation? All I see is that the Department of Health comes around and write up tickets.
Well, they also were doing things like working with landlords.
They don't that much landlord. I mean, we manage a whole bunch of buildings. They have not done a thing other than send us notices. That's all
They
they-
stopped the program for 2 years. It just, we just started.
They were good when they.
They made a huge, before COVID, they made a huge difference, huge. We have I think it's in the appendix, we have the appendix to the district, we have all the statistics.
So what this is asking for is increased litter basket service.
Is that your last one?
This is the last of the transportation that has not already been dropped down. Correct.
Well, the reason why I'm trying to figure out a way is because I know the office gets a lot of complaints. And this is what Susan was talking about with SLA with regards to park problems, and there's been a lot of issues, Sarah D and others, Tompkins.
Yeah.
So if we don't say that we're responding to it, then, but it's hard to take stuff off.
It is. So the options kind of are for which to get rid of. There's additional parks enforcement police, or
Forestry.
increased beacon program funding, or, well, this is L.
Oh, this is the 100
Or this, increased funding for waste management at NYCHA buildings, or increased litter basket service. Those are the four that we're deciding from the bottom to delete. It's 22, 23, 24, or 28. Sorry. Good word, or parks enforcement.
I wouldn't take off the parks enforcement.
Well, if you don't have a vote either, If,
How about reading?
of those four, do you have a vote on this? I'm just saying of those four, we need to pick one.
No,
I'm
I'm
trying to come
not,
up
I'm
with a
not voting,
procedure.
I'm just
There's arguing
suggesting
that too, yeah.
from
So
the
there-
work I do all the time, the Parks Enforcement Police really need it. We have something like 2 teams below 59th Street.
I'm shocked to see it that low, to tell you the truth.
It is, and they don't work at night at all, we have no night.
But the committee explicitly decided that that was expendable for them. That was the first they wanted removed. By putting it last, they knew it was a possibility.
I don't know if it was expendable because we don't have a list like this.
Well, I always talk to my committee about the fact that your bottom 1 or 2 may not make the list, so make very sure that your priorities are reflected all the way to the bottom.
They only had about 4 and they were all important.
How about the green one?
You can't take that off because it's not the bottom one. You can only take off the bottom.
If we can't take off anything, we'd be here all night.
Doing this for 18 years that I've been here, so, we can do it.
So we gotta figure it out.
So we need 25. There are 2 parks that we need to figure out how to do that, right?
So,
So above 25, David has indicated 3, right? That could possibly, because of the way they're ranked.
Well, no, more accurately, we have to get rid of 2, and there are 2 parks that are also in the option. I am not convinced that we must preserve this one at all costs.
so I'm gonna say, from the connection of what we see and what we need, we really do.
I would never have increased funding for Green Thumb. They are worthless.
Yeah.
So, so we can't.
Sorry, Kate.
No, Parks and Department says I would have much higher.
I will just say that PEP has occupies 2 buildings in the park, and I know another.
Yeah.
And they are, I don't think I'm gonna say anymore, but it, for us, in that part, forestry matters, because we have a limb that's hanging from a tree for 6 weeks.
We do too.
So,
Forestry's very
Could we pick an item and vote on it?
no, Harmon, we're gonna be here for just get comfortable.
Can I make a suggestion? Human Services has loads of them. We can talk about Human Services one.
Okay, so the Beacon programs is the middle school, the school base.
That's probably.
I mean, the program's still gonna exist.
Yeah, the program will exist, yes.
So, so 24, is that okay, Nate?
Yeah, okay, yeah, this, I mean, it will exist, they may get cuts, but they will exist.
Yeah, it's not gonna be.
They're still gonna be around.
That's true, man.
It's still gonna be around.
Yeah, some of them. So if there's no objection, I'll move this one down below the bottom parks.
Right.
Doing it.
Okay, you're moving that
Yeah, right, we're not killing the program.
And then I would suggest that the waste basket pick up, because I think that's getting a lot of attention anyway, and they're gonna be doing that.
Good.
All right, I'm not totally against it.
All right, let's
So
see.
no objection.
No objection.
Next year, I do not want to see Parks Police that far down on the list.
Talk to my vice chair.
Go to.
Next year responsibility.
Remember that.
David, you can come to my park.
No, I want it higher on the list. I want it above those worthless green.
I think you should talk to people before you.
This meeting is being recorded.
Are we done?
Okay.
Are we done?
So we just took the 5 off.
Yes.
Yeah.
we're good.
The top ones, we just focused on the bottom.
So now we took off 5, are we good with the rest of the order? Let's go through.
No worries, we'll get into a 5-hour discussion of full board.
Looks fantastic.
Safe haven.
All right.
Funding for more outreach
Safe
consortium.
haven.
I want to read what they are, and I'm not gonna just go fast. Funding for more, okay, that's regulated homeless youth, increase funding for more safe haven,
If they don't have, because
after school programs, their futures program, Yeah.
They're a very needy community.
Everyone's office was there. It'd be a good shape.
I would make one trade members, so we're all H up to this point, still H.
That's fine. with me.
Transportation.
Somebody else could pick it up.
Okay,
No, I would do it. I mean, we had.
pickups for,
Dishes and level up.
What are they doing with compost? I'm just curious right now.
you know, it's, it may come back, but it's not gonna come back to the city
It's in Queens, right?
anytime soon.
It's
It's
in
in Queens
It's in
right now.
Queens and it's just not gonna happen soon.
Mhm.
There may not be the will to try to ramp up and do it. It's not like it actually diverts much of the waste stream. And they had a program to ramp it up 4 years ago. They shut it down and there's no political appetite by the mayor to do it, I believe.
But the city council really wants to do it.
So it might happen, but they'd have to do with that, not us. Works.
Right, so just to summarize, we had 30 and we knocked five down, right? Okay.
So this is what you were asking about just now.
Yeah,
This is
I
why
just-
you asked. Yeah. Well, maybe I should take my own advice from my committee, but I actually probably should have encouraged us to keep that a bit lower because I don't think it's gonna happen.
Actually, they don't do any curbside composting. What they do is they pick up the
Yeah.
stuff to go to a compost.
Correct, yeah, but it's curbside pickup for
That's a
compost,
curbside
yeah.
pickup.
Okay,
Now we're at the bottom.
so we're looking at quite a bit. Okay.
Okay, so it's top 25. That's what's going. That's what.
We say we
the
need
board
to
is
look
gonna
at
say.
Below that,
What?
leave what's below 25,
Okay.
so it won't send it out.
Well, the thing is, if at full board, people want to move things around, if we don't have them there, I don't know that it's a good idea to do that.
Then they will argue about it.
Well, it's true, but it's,
That's just why we're doing this.
It's not dear, that's why we're trying.
it's likely to happen, but if we tell them in the bottom 26 to the end, we'll drop off the list.
There's,
Then there's
Someone
gonna be
could
an
advocate
argument,
for
someone's
moving
gonna
it.
push it back.
I would just get rid
Yes,
of
we-
that.
Okay, we as the executive.
Herman, you're tired.
decide-
I think you're tired because you've been the treasurer for 10
We
times.
could decide right here to determine that outcome.
Yeah, I think that's what the executive.
I'm gonna vote no.
He's a
I'm
treasurer.
sorry.
Just that's why it's some.
Do we delete 26 through 30 or do we leave them here?
Yes,
as
please.
Placeholders. That is the question. I vote do not delete 26 through 30.
So we'll in a sense of full board this weekend. Do we keep 26 through 30 as placeholders or do we delete them off the list and you
We
see
just vote to a consensus if that's the case.
So David has voted no. May,
I'm just trying to remember what we did last year, but how it turned out, but I kind of don't remember a lot of debate last year and it just sort
It
of.
wasn't
passed.
any.
so right now, do you want to keep 26 to 30 as placeholders or not? May, Yes or no?
We'll keep the placeholders then.
so keep them as placeholders.
Yeah, keep those
That's
placeholders
two.
and tell them that only 25 get it.
Kenya,
Very good.
okay, so yes, keep them in. Eric,
Yes. Minutes, please.
Yes.
Unfortunately, yes. I'd like to take them off, but it's a community board, so. yes.
I think we should keep them
Uh, Herman,
No.
I'm gonna say no as well.
David could just ask you to make sure to say that.
But
It's going to lead to a whole bunch of.
Good, democracy's messy.
This is not.
so they're gonna be left in and this is what's gonna get sent to the full board
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
But then somebody should really educate people about.
Yeah. we will say.
So then there's the top priorities, or whatever those are called.
Oh,
But also why those decisions get made the way they do.
doesn't matter. They're gonna try and move parks every year.
So what were those?
What was that, the top priorities, Susan, what were you saying before about top three?
So the top three every year have been, most pressing needs have been, not in any order, homelessness, seniors, and affordable housing. We keep that again. The exec's just been doing this every year.
Well,
We
is
can
that-
keep it as is.
Yeah.
Is that a general consensus for the exec? Keep those as the top three priorities?
Do you want to ask the community?
I'm asking exec first before.
No, just the exec, but the exec's been doing this every year.
It's consensus, thank you.
Yes.
Keep it as is.
You can close,
Keep-
be sure to close that, otherwise I won't be able to get in.
Do you want that included in the minutes, what we just said about keeping?
Yeah, that's fine. That would be a good idea.
Okay. So we're gonna keep
Can
homelessness.
we shut it down or you want to just?
You can shut it down.
Well, we're gonna keep homelessness, seniors and
Affordable
affordable housing.
housing. I'm just collecting the agendas on the next desk. They're not gonna be on tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
All right, we're not done
There's
here.
actually a lot of talking about.
He goes on the
Vice Chair, thank you for coming. If you wanted to leave, you can. You guys. You know, some get to, sorry, Jake. I get to-
So some would watch a game, I guess. I don't even know. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna text you. Trevor.
Send him a picture of you right from the TV.
Yeah. Wow, that would be great. I'll just-
Okay, so we're not done. Okay, we're gonna go to committee reports. Michelle's not here, SLA, but David, are you gonna do the report?
So I can't give you details. I can say that, we voted on applications. We did reverse remember the one that we sent last month back to full board, back to committee? We did reverse it at committee. And there's a change to make language less ambiguous on the guidance, and not only did it make it less ambiguous, it explicitly made it, the amendment would make it such that we would not be providing guidance about something that had been licensed many, many years ago. Would carve those out, so it would say very explicitly, never before licensed, or the one, or if I read the language of it. Currently, it says previously unlicensed, and that could mean, potentially, that could mean not currently licensed, or it could mean literally never, ever in the past was it licensed. Well, the committee decided to send up a motion saying, to amend it to say never, never, ever licensed in the past, even if that was many years ago. So anyway, those are the two things coming up from the committee. It just seems like let's because one more thing about, I messed up last month. And we all need to understand what to do in a situation where someone says, send it back to committee, and we know there's a time constraint on it. If you recall what happened, remember this happened, and I was just like, this is time critical. And then it was pointed out that we could only do it if the applicant agreed to come back. And then we slid right from one person saying, refer to committee, to the applicant saying, I would love that. And we did it. I messed up so badly. I should have made us take a vote as to whether we would be good with sending it back to committee and ask the applicant that night. And if the applicant agreed, they would come back and then we would send it to committee. Otherwise, we would not. So we had no democratic process thanks to the parliamentarian who was not engaged properly, right? Let's just say that. So we did send it back to committee and we did have a reversal at committee. Anyway, never should we ever allow an undemocratic process where two people determine the outcome. especially when one of them is not even on the board. Okay, so whenever you detect that happening, please say, Mr. Chair, Mr. Or Ms. Chair, whatever, Chair, parliamentarian, there's got to be a demand that we have some process to have a vote on anything like that. Thank you.
In your defense, Mr. Parliamentarian, I did call you up right after the meeting saying, I think I made a mistake.
Well, so we all made a mistake, but you know what, I should have,
In my reflection after the board meeting, I was like, I think I screwed up there, so I will put that on me there. All right.
Bless you.
Bless you. All right, that's it for SLA. Trevor Parks.
No resolutions, just updates on the construction project.
Thank you. David, you want to talk about transportation?
Transportation. Well, there's, a couple, agenda items, remembering what they are now, because I got so educated about parliamentary process just now. Yeah, the bus wasn't really the big one. And nothing is going to be super contentious. But next month, we have one item on the agenda. I said I would add a second one about discussing future agenda items. But we basically know that we are not going to approve the Academy Express because it's NYU and we never have. So I feel that we could almost just let this one go through with no comment because they're going to get their application, they're going to get their permit anyway. On the other hand, that is the board deciding, me or us deciding that we're just not going to send in an opinion. I feel terrible asking the whole committee to come to a meeting that's going to be in person to debate something that they know that we are going to say no about.
Were they gonna get it anyway, you said?
But they're going to get it anyway. Susan.
I thought the whole point of the resolution, even when you did the resolution, you knew they would get it. I thought the point was to make a statement that that is something that the board can really advocate for.
Right. We passed two identical motions this past meeting, and now we have a third. Why didn't they send them all to us at once? I don't know.
Well, another option is, do you want to instead put it on the exec committee and have the exec committee send a resolution the same as the last ones?
What do people think about that? That carves my committee out of it. My committee has, well, actually had two members vote against the motion, actually, now that I think of it, at committee.
That being said, I think it's gonna be tough. And you may.
Well, but one of them was someone saying our argument has always been with the NYU, you are providing this private service, and so your students are not part of the general MTA bus population. And so we're losing bus service because as more and more of the commuters are NYU students taking your service, we don't have the head count and they're losing our buses. And we only have a bus every half hour on the M8. What the counter argument that was brand new was until such time as the MTA can guarantee safety of the bus passengers, I'm going to vote for this private bus service. I don't think that opinion is going to catch on. I think there was just one vote like that. Do you recall, Susan?
I think
Maybe you're right.
It
Maybe I should
wasn't
put
too
it to
many.
us.
It was, I think it was just one person that voted. I was on that meeting. So. I think it was only one.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, and that was the nature of that vote. It was more of a protest vote, but you're correct. Maybe I should be putting it before the committee. Anyway, I just feel bad about asking people to come for one item that I am certain we will vote against, but maybe we should vote against it.
You have 2 committee members here.
What do you think?
I'm fine if it comes back to us.
With it coming back? So you're fine to come to a meeting okay, let's just do it.
To come here or to the exec?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to the exec or to transportation. You're fine with going back to transportation.
Rather than having a physical meeting to debate the what do you think?
Keep our fingers
crossed. Exactly. So we'll do this one in exec, and we should send an email to the committee members that it will happen there. Sounds good?
Okay.
Sorry, that took much longer than I thought it would.
So you're taking it up
Yes.
off there.
So we won't have a meeting then is what the point.
So there'll be no meeting scheduled.
Right. We're unlikely to get something popping up in the next few days, right? If we do, we'll can reverse this decision.
Besides,
Pardon?
it's,
There won't be another agenda item appearing on November between now
No, I don't, we never, I tell everyone we finally
it
have,
says,
I have to have a finalized agenda for the exec, I do. That's what I tell.
it's the only thing on the agenda with the.
Got it, David. Sorry.
So this application's coming off the November agenda?
Yes.
And coming to the executive.
I didn't see the agenda.
The only thing other than
Yeah, no.
David possibly
Bring it to
not
exec
adding.
is-
Okay, we're bringing Tuesday. Got it.
So do you want to have the applicants then come to exec, or do you want to just vote?
Oh, yeah, we should definitely give them the opportunity to come and you guys can
Okay.
see.
They're not gonna come.
It's a brief presentation.
Oh,
They
they're
do,
not gonna
they
come.
do.
Oh.
But you should tell them that it's
Yeah.
being discussed, that it's not.
Fine.
So let me ask this, if we end up having a virtual meeting, should I put it before next Wednesday? Shall I put it back on as virtual so they don't have to present at the exec?
That's fine by me. I wouldn't mind doing a online quick meeting.
Okay,
Okay,
I think,
so if it's virtual, we'll have a transportation committee meeting. If it's in person, we'll put the academy bus on the exec.
clarification. Paul, are we, if there is a, what do you, is it emergency order at this point?
Executive.
Executive order?
Extension.
Yes, if there's an emergency order, then
Are
it'll
we
be
going
virtual.
virtual?
Yeah,
Not, we will go virtual for the November meetings. I am not going virtual on Tuesday.
Okay,
That's.
all right, that's,
so we're
that's,
not going virtual for
On
what?
Tuesday for full board.
so,
We're not canceling
right,
that.
that's a clarification. So there's a possibility and the reason why you have the IDs here in case the,
The reason is because it's a lot more work to put them back on.
We have the Zoom account, it's always ready, and that's part of the process.
The election will be much easier in person.
Yeah, actually,
the election is,
November.
Thank you. So just to let, oh, we didn't have, we'll have to have ballots ready and everything, so, you know.
They're gonna have, I believe they're gonna have another meeting, so go figure it
Yeah.
out.
We just need to give Ed plenty of time to do that.
Human Services, Nick.
Yes, so we, at last month, we, had an interesting presentation from an organization from Safe Horizons. They run a program called Streetworks, for homeless youth. Their program is on Essex Street. There was no vote on it. It was just informational, but, you know, it was really interesting and it was on Zoom. And for someone who hates Zoom meetings, as I do, I found it really interesting. So it is, if you're interested, it's worth a look at the video. You know, they gave a good presentation. We voted on our, you know, priorities, but we did not have quorum. So that means I will need to, at full board, make a motion to have it adopted. Is that what someone or I need to do?
you did not have quorum, just have a committee member who understands what they're doing, say, I move that we adopt the motion on the vote sheet for item 5 because we didn't have quorum at committee.
Oh, okay.
That's just make sure you just do, unfortunately, those are kind of magic words.
David, can you send the language, send any specific languages so that we can say, who should say that?
do that. You want to send me the specific?
Yes.
Okay.
Send to Larissa, so Larissa can do it.
Okay. Okay, so we're still
Is that it, man?
yes, that's it. Also in, is it November? No, for November, we have a short agenda and we are, since our agenda is so short, we're gonna do the, you know, future agenda planning. So that'll help us, you know, with the early planning. And in December, it looks like we will have a joint, no, we are having a joint meeting with land use. And because we're going to have a presentation from 3 city agencies about the city's policy about housing and homelessness. Interesting.
Thank you. Yes, that's December, right? Okay. Thank you. Land use is not here. They have the zoning 101 training on Tuesday night. I don't know if anybody was able to go on it. If you didn't, and want to know more about zoning, please check out the YouTube of the committee meeting. One thing I did want to talk about, I didn't put it into my board chair report. I waited for the committee report section. Landmarks, which is now a secondary committee. I had a meeting earlier today with Susan and the interim landmarks chair, Sandra Strother, with Middle Collegiate Church and the architects, right? Is that-
Architect and landmarks representative.
Right, so the focus of this meeting was to figure out whether or not their certificate of appropriateness should come before the landmarks committee in November.
You talk about St. Augustine?
Middle Collegiate Church is the church that went on fire in December of 2020.
On Second Avenue.
On Second Avenue 7?
Yeah.
Right. December 2020 is on fire. The facade stayed up, but is in very dangerous condition. And I believe the certificate of appropriateness is to tear down the facade. So my decision earlier today was to waive having the landmarks committee hear the meeting, right, hear the item right now, before the public hearing, for landmarks, correct? If am I screwing up that language, I'm trying to remember.
No, that's correct.
And once they figure out what's gonna happen with the landmarks application, they will be able to come back if need be. But I decided to waive the committee meeting so they can go and have the public meeting, public hearing instead, and then we'll figure out the application after. But the application is to tear down the facade, but they don't have, their timetables are very different, so we want to make sure they were able to go through their processes before they come to us. Did I screw any of that up?
Well, one other important thing to
Go ahead.
add is the only thing that there is to consider is the engineering report, which says it's very unsafe. So there's nothing for the landmarks committee to weigh in on because they don't have experience to weigh in on a engineering report for public safety. And if people will remember, everyone's mind is very fresh with the synagogue down in Norfolk a couple of years ago, where it was the exact same situation. They were trying to save the facade to keep in the new development. And it was so dangerous that I think it was Department of Buildings said they had to do it by hand, and a worker died doing that. And so I think that's kind of what's on everyone's mind.
So,
Do we
Yeah.
have anyone on here? Is Michelle on there?
No.
no,
Why don't we just turn? it
well, we're
off?
still recording,
Oh.
so we're for the
Okay,
record,
sorry.
So yeah, I decided to waive the committee meeting right now, and then we'll figure out everything afterwards. But it was a very productive meeting. We did record that meeting if anybody has questions about it. But it was very productive and everybody was in agreement, and we want to be supportive of the church as much as we possibly can for all the work they've done over the years. That is it for the committee reports. Is there any old business? No, any new business? All right, Danielle, give us the final roll call attendance and then we can adjourn.
Paul Rangle,
Yes.
Eric Diaz,
Yes.
Julie Giroux,
Yes.
Larissa Scheinberg,
Yes.
Kenny Hernandez, yes, Herman Hewitt,
Yes.
Mei Lee,
Yes.
Anisha Stephen,
Stephen, but she's not.
Michelle Coopersmith, Trevor Holland,
Yes, present.
David Crane.
Oh my God, I lost track of what we're voting on.
Attendance.
Fine.
Final attendance, I'm here. Listen to everybody in the room.
Is that everyone, Kenny?
I think it wasn't.
Yes, that's everyone.
That's all.
All right, we're adjourned. Good night.
Thank you so much for stepping in.
Just hit end meeting, just hit end meeting.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. See you
And we
Tuesday, right?
got- They got a mail first.
Seriously?
Yeah.
All right, good night, everyone.
Good night.